Ah, nice. That's great. OBS can draw on what I have listed on YouTube, on the YouTube site, and then just like autofill the details for me, which is what it already did. Like all I needed it to do is just stream directly to YouTube whenever I just needed to get it up and going. It looks like it's working though. Anyways, hello from my new computer. We are starting the 48th podcast, which I know is out of order. Please excuse me. And the reason why that is because Alon has generated a podcast for number 48, and that will be our music discussion on Mood Ring Stargazer. Never actually heard the band or the artist, so excuse me. Okay, one thing I am a little peeved about right now is how Discord, unlike my other computer, doesn't have my markdown file previewable on Discord. So I'm a little peeved right now because I have to download it in order to see it. Who knows? Maybe there's an option to change that. I don't actually know. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about taking agency, and it is, I know I did like another segment earlier on answering the call to responsibility was the name of the podcast, and I think most of this will overlap, but I think if anything this is more of a podcast for me to review or self-reflect over why perhaps my previous maybe 7-ish 8-ish months, no, it's more than that, it's way more than that, it's like maybe almost a year now, I think I've lost a bit of my agency towards myself. And I used to call this just responsibility that you know you need to tend to, because part of the things that you didn't tend to would make you feel guilty over. And so part of fulfilling that guilt is like some level of responsibility that you need to maintain towards maintaining whatever dimension that is causing you guilt over. I think agency is a little different. um I guess more so, actually, you know what, maybe I can't even confidently say that agency and responsibility is too much different. But I guess this is perhaps like the second iteration plus like my own self-reflection version of this idea, I suppose. And the reason why I would bring this up in the first place is because I've had to review, I think, some different behaviors that I've been exhibiting in the past year. And I guess claim that I haven't been too proud of what has been happening. So I think, especially with my exercise habits, that was one of the first things that kind of starts separating from, or something that I took a lot of agency for most of last year, up until like around September when I stopped like going on runs all the time. I ended up just cycling in the evening instead for about like an hour or 40 minutes. But that ended up dwindling because I lost a lot of motivation to go and do those things. But as of recently, I haven't been a huge fan of seeing myself in the mirror. And so I think a big change moving forward is this upbringing of motivation to re-engage with the agency that I once had. So I initially labeled this podcast as taking back agency because I think to some degree I always had this vision for myself of being leaner and more fit and just feeling good. And I think along the way I've also, on top of like the the physical body dimension at which I'm measuring my agency against, or my how much I pursued like different agencies, I also stopped standing up for myself. And now I think I have a better way to stand up for myself. I think I lost a sense of my authenticity as I got more stressed out and just wanted to not deal with things that I didn't want to necessarily deal with. but they ate away at my soul in the meantime. So now I think I'm at a point where I'm done doing things that eat away at my soul, and I'd rather take control of my life to be to engage in things that are meaningful to myself again. And so I think my communication is a part of that. I think I'm more stern, namely in the past like day or so, day or two. Like I've had this realization very recently, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up. There are other areas at which I haven't been taking agency on, and I think once I start improving on like a fitness level as well as a standing up for myself in conversation level, I think other dimensions are going to drastically improve at the same time. Or at least I'll be brave enough to engage with those other dimensions or improve in those other dimensions as we go along. But I know for the ones that are of priority to me is my weight and also just being able to stand up for myself. Okay. Um, so what is taking agency in your life? And so one of the examples that I already gave is like my weight. In some specifics that I can go off of that is when I have agency towards, or when I take responsibility towards like seeing myself become more fit, I end up paying attention to more of what I eat. I actually wrote it down. So for all of last year, I had like a calorie Excel sheet where I was keeping track of calories very specifically. And for some reason, I was getting through that really well. And even though the numbers didn't necessarily match up with what I had written down or recorded, they were actually in favor of me losing weight anyways. So even though I might have been inaccurate, I was inaccurately biased towards me not losing weight. And so having that record would give me more information about how to adjust how like what my eating habits were or what my exercise habits were. I had a very strong routine when it came to exercising and like a day-to-day cycle. So I'd go to bed at around like I don't know, like 4 in the morning and I'd wake up at 12. And that was like most of my junior year of college. Like I was killing it. Like to I'd done so much to keep my life consistent while also manipulating variables to see how fit I could become. And so that worked out so well for myself. And now it's a different time because I have, a new job. I've got new responsibilities, new people to be around. And they're all people that I want to be like, I want to keep in the circle. So the added responsibility is like extra time that I need to invest into my network. And so that's where I'm at right now. And I'd like to think, well, it's not that I'd like to think. I believe the shift in my agency when it came to my fitness anyways is if I don't take responsibility for it, then I just eat whatever I want. And that's a major problem because that ends up getting me to a place where I'm not very proud of. So it'd be better if I was just maintaining it the whole time. And so, unfortunately, as of now, I'm not at a particularly good weight of which I had achieved last year. But part of taking agency again is being hopeful that you can make it back to the same spot with the right amount of effort. Or at least you're giving yourself the opportunity to put in the effort and invest the time into seeing you become the person that you want to be. And that's what like taking agency is all about, I think, in an abstract level. So even though specifically named my weight loss, I think people could use that for other things that they want to take control of as well. I think taking agency is going about your day-to-day life and then taking control over the things that you do, deliberately making decisions about what you do instead of mindlessly doing them. And I think the more that you conceptualize the control you have over the different things that you do, the more you feel like you can, well, the more inspired you can be to do other things as well. So there's some level of structure that comes along with agency, and the benefits I think are undoubtedly clear, that you'll be better off and be more deliberate in which direction you want your life to take. And I think that can be inspiring for not only yourself, but can also be inspiring for other people, which I mentioned later in this outline, but that's like one of the last points. Anyways, we'll move on to the second point. Why would you live actively? And actively, not so much in like the physical fitness part where you're being active every day, physically active every day, but actually thinking about what you do and why you do it, and then making actions off of what aligns with your goals to get you further on in life. And I think knowing what's worth your time is something you should always be evaluating. And part of that question is also knowing, um, well, also knowing the end goal of what you want. So knowing what's worth your time has to have some vision as to what you want in the future. And so the two-part question ends up being like a self-reflection activity in itself, a two-part self-reflection activity in itself. So I think once you have that understanding, that'll give you more control over how you want to navigate your your life. It is your life after all. So make moves in the way that you want to make them. What makes taking agency different from answering the call to responsibility? Um, so now that I get to this point, I think it's a little different than how I phrased it before. I know I had already like self-answered this question, but actually I do think there's a difference now that I think about it. I think answering the call to responsibility is in part like the guiltiness feeling of not feeling like your existence is going towards something that's meaningful. And I think taking agency is remembering, oh, maybe that's the same thing. Maybe taking agency is like remembering that you have responsibilities that you want to take care of, despite all the other responsibilities that you're taking care of now. So I guess answering the call to responsibility is a little different in like a contextual. I mean, maybe that's probably a poor argument altogether. You know what? Maybe I'll put it down. But the argument I was trying to make was answering the call to responsibility is coming from a place where you don't have responsibilities to tend to already, or not enough. And taking agency is like investing even more time on top of the other responsibilities that you have, and remembering that this is a dimension of your life that you should be paying attention to, and making active decisions towards influencing it in the way that you want it to go in your life. What are the byproducts of taking agency in other dimensions in your life, and does it make it better? Um, so, like I said, I think a large part of the agency that I took of last year, especially when it came to like my physical fitness, I think I saw a lot more growth intellectually. I saw a lot more responsibility coming out of myself. I think I had grown into being able to manage more. I think I grew with the self-reflection process that I have today. I think I made incredible friends. I think I saw a lot more coming out of being able to, well, I mean, on top of like my physical performance, I've been able to perform in well, I don't know, I've achieved great milestones that I've never had before when it came to the kind of physical fitness that I had last year. But then that also improved like my problem solving ability, that improved my reaction time. Just losing weight in general has undeniable benefits that have already been proven. But, I think the more that you focus on yourself and improve yourself, the more you're going to see other dimensions also grow with that. And so I think taking this agency and taking responsibility over things that you feel the need to take responsibility for, I think that's, and you have the opportunity to. It's not just like no one wants you to do it, but I think once you do that, you'll be able to see improvement in other dimensions of your life that you didn't think would be associated with that. All right, the next question. Do most people take responsibility for every small detailed action that they make? And, I think some people need to wind down. Um, I think some people need a cheat day when they're making effort towards their body. I think some people need to have like some separation from the kind of effort that they need to put into. But is that responsibility that they necessarily take? I guess. Because I think when it comes to these different agencies that you might want to surround yourself with, I think the I think the understanding of having this agency is knowing that it has effort associated with it. And so the effort is exhausting at times, and maybe you need a break from it. But I think there's also some resiliency element to it, or stamina element, that you should be paying attention to as well. Because at what point does your feeling of needing to take a break actually mean that the agency isn't right for you? And maybe taking agency in your own unique way when pursuing like a goal would be like a better solution for you instead of the one you have it in mind. And so I didn't even think about that when I was generating this outline, but I guess the path to success and what you want to be responsible for can change over time. And actually, now that I think about it, I can speak to that on a fitness level. So most last year I did a 1 hour biking session at night. It was a pretty set time. I would watch like 3 anime episodes, um, or for an hour, whichever one came first. And I would just do that for like 3 months. And then later on, I realized that my ability to lean down, so like thin down, got worse, the more that I kept doing that. And so I hit a wall, and then I was able to reevaluate my situation to try a new method in losing weight. And that new method was like doing a half-hour run on top of the hour biking session. So that was like my new method. I guess you could say like the way my agency was taken care of, or the method of agency was taken care of differently from one point to the next. But that's because like the end goal demanded like a different path than what I was already taking. But it got me really far. It's just it didn't get me the kind of results that I wanted to see as fast. So I made adjustments to that as needed. But in terms of, do most people take responsibility for every small detailed action that they make? You would hope that people did. Um, because I know most everyone wants to be physically fit, and I keep using this as like my point of reference for this topic, but um like even my mom, I think, wants to lose weight, but doesn't have like the kind of dedication needed to, in the moment when they're, you know, contributing to the problem, they don't actually make the change to make the problem better. And that takes dedication, but that's the kind of agency that you need to hold yourself accountable to. Okay. Why burden yourself with more responsibility? And I think it's really up to you at the point where you feel like taking on the responsibility would better your life. I think a lot of people ask that question and say that it's not worth their time. Like it's the kind of payout that you would get from taking on certain responsibilities when the outcome would not be worth it, which I think is a fair speculation. Um, I also think you'll be surprised at how worth it might be when you go do it though. And this is me even even talking to like my past self and where I didn't want to take more responsibility as much as I'd like to. So, I think it's fair to say now that I'm at a point in time where I'd like to be taking more responsibility than what I already have because I want to see myself in a much different spot that I am today. And I'm willing to see myself through with that. And I will be making a small, detailed, or a very detailed plan to make that happen. Um, yeah. But yeah, I think burdening yourself with more responsibility could mean a promising future for yourself. And that's something that you should always work towards. Why are the people we look up to have grand responsibility? This was kind of like a throwout idea, but I included it anyways. But this actually ties back to, um, I forget the whole line of questioning or line of commenting that I did in order to talk about like other people and the inspiration of why having grand responsibilities is like something worthy of aspiring to be. I don't know. I mean, like even as a kid, we think about different different careers that we could have, like being an astronaut, president of the United States. I don't know, a custodian. You could be whatever you want to be as like a kid and think that that's like the best job ever. And I don't know if they necessarily look at that in the responsibility factor of it or perhaps the experience level of what that would tend to. But there are people out there who definitely think of becoming a nanny because they want to have that responsibility with being with kids. So not everyone perception perceptualizes the career that they want to have in the future as the responsibility along with that role, but rather the experience of it. And I don't know if those are like against each other, those two ideas are against each other or what. But I think the I think the responsibility is like a burden that you put onto yourself, but it's also like somewhat of a meaningful burden that you take upon your character. And so I think we look up to these people and believe that we want to be able to manage as much responsibility as they do and get somewhere with it. I think that's what actually now that I just said that, that's probably the reason why we look up to people who have done like great things. It's like given this responsibility to do something great, you did something great with it. Like being an astronaut and making the achievement of going up to the moon. Being the president of the United States and abolishing racism. Uh, I don't know, man. Anyways, I wanted to keep this one short. It wasn't supposed to be that long. Just like a quick pop in because last Sunday I said I was gonna do one and I didn't. So here we are today with taking agency. I did have a outline planned for a different one, which was knowing who was worth your time, and what's worth your time, and that was supposed to be planned for Sunday, but didn't end up going live. So that might be what we do on the next Sunday after that, but as of this Sunday, we're going to be doing the music review. So that concludes it from me. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys another time. Bye-bye.